Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Conservative is Cool Talk Radio. It's your host, Wayne Bradley. I want to thank you for joining me tonight on a Wednesday night. We're going to talk about some important issues going on in our country. My guest tonight is Rick Barber. He's running for Congress in the 2nd District of Alabama, and I'll be waiting for his call to call in so we can start that interview. But just going over some things that are going on in our country right now. We have the judicial trial for Kagan. She's being vetted right now, and she's being called out on multiple issues. I think that the thing that surprises, I think she's going to get through because obviously they have the majority, but it concerns is she's actually an activist, or she has no real judicial experience. And she's worked a lot with the Clinton administration, and there's a lot of things that concern her when she banned the ROTC, I guess, from the military from recruiting because she disagreed with the don't ask, don't tell policy. So, conservatives are naturally concerned that she could be someone that could get in a position and become an activist judge. So, it'll be very interesting to see how the process goes. At the end of the day, from what listening to what other insiders say about her, she seems to be qualified. There's no denying her qualifications. It's just a matter of will people be comfortable enough that she won't be an activist judge and follow the rules of the law, and don't make it a personal issue. So hopefully we'll find out more about her through this vetting process and be able to make that determination. Right now, we're at day 75 or something like that for the oil spill now, and yet we still we're no closer today than we were 2 months ago to having this oil spill solved. There's been a lot of discussions on different ways that they could solve this problem. Obviously, they're trying to drill pressure relief drills now, relief holes for the spill, but they're saying that that's not even a guarantee that that's going to work. So it was interesting listening to Bill Clinton's solution. Obviously, he's done some research on what they would possibly have to blow up the whole well. I tend to believe that these oil companies don't want to do that because obviously this well has a lot of oil in it, and I just don't know if that's what they're doing. At this point, I'm really starting to believe that it's more to it than what's politically. You really have to wonder how bad this administration wants to get this oil spill taken care of. Not to sound like some kind of person that makes up a bunch of conspiracy theories, but you have to wonder that if they're letting this get bad enough that they'll get to a point where they'll be able to ban drilling, period, make offshore drilling something of the past in this area. The scientists who looked over this whole scenario did not recommend that they put a moratorium on drilling. That was an administration call, and they decided to do it against the advice of the scientists in the area, which has caused that industry to suffer, which means jobs are being lost, people are being laid off. Now they're being compensated right now, but these people want to get back to work, and it's not, even from a safety issue, it's not a good idea just to cut off all these rigs and all these places that were being manned by people and then demand that they be cut off. So I'm hoping that the president and they listened to the federal judge that decided that those moratoriums were a bad idea. And again, we're looking at an administration that's willing to challenge the law of the land. They're not willing to listen to other, those around them. If a federal judge feels that it was, wasn't necessary to put the moratorium on there, and scientists also said that the moratorium wasn't necessary, how does it that the administration feels comfortable, regardless of what everyone else has requested, to put a moratorium on the offshore drilling in that area? Those people need their jobs, and again, you have to wonder if they're going to let this get bad enough where they could ban offshore drilling. And again, playing to the hands of what these environmentalists and all these green people think is the right thing to do. I've said it before. This earth, I value it, but at the same time, people have to live. I mean, I've heard them actually make discussions about how much our dogs affect greenhouse gases and things of that nature. I mean, it's to that extent that we're even having those kind of discussions with these environmentalist people. And again, they're part of the reason why it's become so hard to do business in America. All the regulations, all the things in other countries you don't have to do, and then we sit here and wonder why the jobs leave. Between the higher taxes, higher regulation, we make doing business in my state, in Michigan, and across America, we make it in some places we make it a real pain to do business. And I think it's a really time that we look at the direction our country is headed in. We've sat here and watched basically this administration not listen to the people whatsoever when it came to the health care issue. They basically decided on their own they were gonna force health care down the throats of the American people, and that has disturbed a lot of people. But at the end of the day, they did exactly what they wanted to do. And again, people will have to step up in 2010. I'm hoping people like Rick Barber, who hopefully will call in soon. You know how this campaign trail is. You do sometimes have nights where communication mishaps happen, but hopefully we can get them on the show soon. If you're listening in, people, give me a call, 347-996-3175. If you're in the Alabama area and you're listening in and you want to speak on Rick Barber and why you think he's a great candidate for the 2nd District, give me a call. He's been in a heated battle. He has been outspent 7-1 by the GOP favorite, and he's still forced to run off elections. So, I mean, you have to be, he's been heavily supported by the Tea Party. Michael Johns, he's been endorsed by a lot of people, and so therefore he's been able to carry his weight despite the fact that the Republican favorite, the establishment favorite, I should say, has outspent him, and he's still been able to force a runoff election. If you're listening in, the call-in number is 347-996-3175. 347-996-3175. I'm going to go to the chat room, see if anybody's in there. Hey, Victoria, how you doing? I see you're in the chat room. Hoping we can get Rick to call in here. We see if I can reach out and see if we can get him on the show here. Again, sometimes these people on the campaign trail, you go to a Tea Party meeting or you're at a rally and it runs over. Sometimes we end up catching the short end of the stick on the interview. Hopefully that's not the case. Anyway, I want to kind of let people know what's going on. This Saturday, I'll actually be speaking myself at a Tea Party in Hanoverton, Ohio. So if you're in the area, July 3rd at 11 a.m., I'll be speaking at the Old Fashioned Tea Party rally at the Spread Eagle Tavern in Hanoverton, Ohio. I know the name of that tavern is pretty wild, but again, it's just a regular bed and breakfast at the Spread Eagle Tavern. It's going to be a great Tea Party rally. We've got a lot of great people on the speaker lineup, so I'm looking forward to that. I want to thank Dave Johnson, who's the moderator, and he invited me to come out there for this Tea Party, and I'm looking forward to it. I'll also be in Beaufort, South Carolina on 9/12, speaking at a Tea Party there, so I'm looking forward to that, and I want to say that I appreciate all the invites and invitations I've had to come speak at Tea Parties. I think that this is a good thing. I think more people need to pay more attention to what's going on inside, with Tea Party movements. You have a lot of different organizations, but people are all striving for the same thing, which is obviously freedom and liberty, but a smaller government, one that's not encroaching into people's personal business and people's personal lives, from a political, a smarter RAND government, a common sense conservative approach to things. You can't spend it if we don't have it, because we are at this point we're essentially bankrolling the future of our kids and grandkids to supply the lifestyle and the living that we're creating right now. So I think that is the real reform that people are looking for when we're bringing in new and fresh faces to Congress. A lot of the people I've talked to throughout the country, again, I speak very highly of the fact they have military backgrounds, again, where there's a certain natural instinct to protect the rights and the liberties of this country, and also to realize that their oath did not end when their service to the military ended. And I think that's almost something that I've noticed a lot with a lot of different candidates, and I can appreciate that. Rick Barber comes from a military background, but he's also a small business owner, been a very successful small business owner, so he understands what it takes to not only bring jobs to an area, but to also how to effectively run something. A lot of these public servants, as we call them, have never spent a day in the private sector, which makes them ill-adapt to understanding the consequences to running our government the way they're doing. If you or I, ran a business the way the government runs business right now, people would be bankrupt. I mean, you couldn't operate this. You couldn't go to a bank. The same banks that the people that we bailed out, you couldn't go to them in the shape that they were in and ask somebody for a loan. It just wouldn't happen. You cannot go to your banks and ask them for a loan and tell them you don't have any money or you don't have any assets or you're in fear that you're going to go out of business. Imagine calling the bank, you have a business, and say, if we don't get this money in the next couple of days, we're going to go out of business, and that's just it. A lot of banks will just tell you to go out of business, but yet when a lot of these private entities and these banks and the big three, when they did it, they were bailed out. And again, me being in Michigan, I understand the consequences. If that bailout would not have been done, you might have had our unemployment might have went from 18 or 20% to maybe 30 to 40% if all those jobs were lost. So, and if they're paying it back, then I guess in the future you could look at that being a smart move, especially if those stocks can be returned to the real shareholders and actually get their money back. Because again, a lot of people lost out being vetted and being invested with the big three. And again, if you're in business for yourself, you can't go to these banks like the Bank of Americas, the Wells Fargos, and tell them that you're on your last leg and you need a loan. But yet and still, they were able to be bailed out by the government. And again, that was a bipartisan issue. Both sides were involved in that, so you have to look at people from both sides of the aisle that are willing to deal our future to help out the people that lobby for them the hardest, when it should be the people that not only lobby them the hardest, but also who their best interests are looking out for. I think it's a sad commentary when it's almost obvious to people when you have politicians that are putting big business ahead of the voter, the person that put them in power to even have that great lofty position where you are being wined and dined by big business and doing these things is because of the person that was in the grassroots in your district that voted you in. And again, they seem to forget that every time they get to D.C. And we've got to put people in charge that aren't going to do that. And again, take the career politicians out of the mix, because again, that's where the problem is. A lot of these guys, rather Republican or Democrat, will do that, and I think that you have to look at they're all working together on these certain issues. When those banks needed bailouts, George Bush was the first one to sign off on it, but he had John McCain, who's still currently a senator, on there, and he had Barack Obama on the other side, because he knew one of those two men would be president, and they all stood up for it together. So again, we have to hold all of our leaders, all of our politicians accountable on both sides of the aisle. It's a lot easier right now, obviously, to look at the way the president and his administration is handling things because, quite frankly, they are just dropping the ball issue after issue, whether it be with this oil spill. From day one, he said, "Oh, this is BP's fault." We know it's BP's fault, but you can't let it creep up on our shores. You can't let it affect the businesses and the tourism and the things that these local communities need to survive. We get it that it's the BP's fault. Okay, let's move past that and move to solutions on how we can fix this problem, whether it be obviously stopping the plug, and the bigger issue should have been recovery and cleanup. It was far too much finger pointing, grandstanding. We're going to arrest people, calling people in, and answer questions when none of those guys are the people that are going to plug that hole and clean up this oil. Those are the answers that we need to be looking at our president for. We don't, right now is not the time to be picking out the lineup on who we're going to try to arrest and question and make them the bad guy. We understand BP made the mistake. There's reasonable questions as to were they negligent? Did they know they were negligent? Did they know these things could happen? And I think that is a fair question down the road after we get these things squared away, after we get the hole plugged, however that needs to be done, and we get this cleanup, an effective cleanup plan in play. I don't understand why FEMA's not more involved in this. This is a federal emergency, and we're treating it as letting BP take the head on this when they might have their own reasons for why they're not getting it done effectively, and people need to really look at that. I understand that the president doesn't want to, this is falling in his lap now, the same way, again, Katrina happened to, the previous president. Well, this has gone on for 75 days, and only sometimes now are we getting, is the president actually being questioned on how he handled this. The person that got more attention was the congressman that actually apologized, I guess, to the oil companies, when it should have been looked at as, what are we going to do to clean up the mess? There are people in areas, on top of that, you're telling the people they can't clean it up. What are we going to do to solve the problem at hand? All the grandstanding, all the politicking as usual that was promised it would change, it was going to be changed, this wasn't going to be the same old thing, it's still happening. There needs to be some concrete solutions to get this thing done. Bobby Jindal, who's taken more of a leadership role than the president has in his state, has requested things. It's taken a lot longer for things to get delivered than necessary. And again, these are the things you have to look at is why, when we're playing the games of politics, and also do we have a president that's competent enough from a leadership standpoint to handle the things that are going on here. These aren't necessarily issues for a community organizer that would be adept for him to handle. And I think now you're starting to see the difference between someone that's had a leadership role, a tenured leadership role in some sort of business. Even as a senator, he was very inexperienced. And again, he never shared in making the toughest decisions. And that's what we were looking for from a president. And I think now, in these kind of situations, that you might be seeing someone that does not know how to handle this kind of emergency situation. So it's unfortunate. I think it's very unfortunate that the people down there in the Gulf Coast areas are suffering the way they are, and probably unnecessary because the fact we have a president that won't step up and do what he has to do to help to get this thing taken care of. We had international help that offered us help more than a month ago, and we finally are willing to accept it now. I guess now we realize we can't do everything by ourselves from this standpoint. So, the president, again, he's dropping the ball in a lot of situations right now. We have an immigration issue in Arizona. He's got his hands full with stuff, but I guess the bigger issue is he handling any of it in the right way. You have an Arizona governor whose hands are tied. She feels that she's not getting the necessary protection from the federal government to keep the border safe. So she's enacting some of her own laws, and yet she's actually going to get sued by the president and his people because they think the law, is unconstitutional and it leaves open for more discrimination and things like that. And I'm not going to say that could not happen in the realm of everything that goes on. I'm from Detroit. I know how it is to be in an area where if you're going to be targeted for something, that could happen. But people need to realize that in the end of the day, these people are doing what we call, police work, and if, for the good of the community, sometimes if that has to happen, I think it's almost like when we're going getting screened at the airport. I know I've done nothing wrong, but I got to take my shoes off. I've got to take off my belt. I've got to make myself uncomfortable, just like everyone else does, because you know what? It's better than risking the safety of everyone, and also making sure we're in a secure airplane. Because again, something that someone else did. I can understand the feelings of being frustrated about that. I mean, I hate going to airports and having to wait and basically disrobe just to make sure that I'm, not going to bring something on the plane or something. I think that is the sacrifices that we've had to make in a new era of terrorists and people wanting to take down America. It's a serious threat, people. I don't believe that the president realizes how serious that the Middle East and Iraq and Al Qaeda, these people aren't giving up. Afghanistan, they're not giving up. That might be a war that might be actually too tough. And again, we're getting news today that Al Qaeda is promoting online releases of its first English magazine, and one of the first guest writers is Anwar al-Awlaki, an American-born cleric linked to several terror attacks in the U.S. Al-Qaeda's not going anywhere, and these guys, again, with the internet and everything else that goes on, they continue on, and we have to be just as diligent in the defense of our country and making sure that we put leaders in place that are willing to do that. I don't think that the president knew or was aware that how serious the situation could be with the economy, and obviously there's people out there that believe we need to spend more. The only thing that I can see that this stimulus bill has done is messed up all the roads that I take to get to work on a daily basis. And again, people will argue those are jobs, and I say, okay, those are jobs. That's fine. But when that money runs out, those people, again, it's a seasonal job, meaning that money might not be available again next year. So the argument would be that it was good, it was smart to spend some money that we didn't have to employ people for a year, and it's not guaranteed that it's going to be back next year. I mean, I just think that there's better ways that we can spend our money and invest in our infrastructure in our country. And again, you won't argue every time a deal goes through the paved roads or something, but this stimulus bill has failed. Unemployment is still at 10% nationally, 18 to 20% in the Detroit area, probably higher, and we're not getting the help or the promises that the administration said that they would listen. They would, economy should have been the first priority with this president, and I think from day one he's bitten off more than he can chew by going after health care first, this cap and trade. I mean, it's just so many things that he wants to achieve, and a lot of it has to do with the fact he wanted to get it done before this Congress gets voted out in 2010. Once they made the mistake of ramming the health care bill down, it was pretty assumed that a lot of these people were going to lose their positions, their elected positions, because they knew that constituents in their area were not happy with the bill, but they went forward with it anyway because the chosen one said that was what they should do, and he got a lot of people to fall on their sword. A lot of people lost their jobs already, and again, they'll continue to do that because of the fact that they were pressured in Chicago-style politics into voting for something that I'm sure some of them didn't think was the best bill. Some people didn't think it was liberal enough. Some people didn't think it went far enough. You almost respect those people more than someone that just says that they just wanted to get a bill through. Nancy Pelosi was not happy in the beginning because it didn't include a public option. Now, at the end of the day, she'll take a political victory just like the rest of these guys will, and that's why, again, we have to commit to putting more quality candidates into position that can make a difference, and I think that's what we're looking for. It doesn't look like I was hoping we were going to get Rick Barber on this evening, but I don't think that must have been a scheduling conflict. What I'll do is I think I'm going to go ahead, if you're listening, I'm going to go ahead and maybe play another interview with some of my recent guests that I had on the show. So that way we can, you don't have to listen to me go on and on here. Again, I'm going to tell you to go check out the website, conservativeiscool.com. I hope if you're in the Ohio area this weekend, stop through Hannafordton. I'll be speaking at a tea party there. Jim Traficant will be there. I'm looking forward to meeting him. The Honorable George McKelvey, who was the former mayor of Youngstown, he will be there. We've got the minority leader of the Ohio House of Representatives, Bill Batchelder. He'll be there also. So looks like it'll be a nice event. I'm looking forward to it. Again, it'll be at the Spread Eagle Tavern in Hannafordton, Ohio. So 11 a.m. on Saturday. So if you are in the area, please check it out. I think what I'm going to do, I'm looking through my interviews here, and I'm trying to think, who could I play for an interview tonight that could help this evening go by, or should I just, I think I'm going to go and play the Allen West interview. For those who might have missed it, I interviewed Allen West about a week ago, and again, he speaks to the true hearts of patriots and people who want to see change in this country. So I'm going to go ahead and play the Allen West interview. You can listen to that, and hopefully maybe we can get in touch with Rick Barber camp. All right, so here we go. And thank you this morning for joining me on Conservative is Cool Talk Radio. I have a very special guest with me today, someone who I consider a personal hero of mine and the Patriot, Lieutenant Colonel Allen West. Welcome, sir.
Well, thanks so much, Wayne, for having me, and greetings to your listening audience.
Thank you. I want to first say thank you for coming on the show. I know you have such a busy schedule. So far, obviously you've become what I would consider a national star. How have you enjoyed this campaign so far?
Well, I think it's a great campaign, and you say national star. I mean, I don't consider myself that. It's very humbling, and it's an incredible honor to be considered all across the country as a person that is the right type of voice and leader to make a difference in our country right now. So it's a huge responsibility, but when the American people look to you for being a person that can go and create viable solutions for this country, I'm more than willing, and that keeps my energy level up.
Do you think a lot of that commitment comes from your extensive time in the military?
Well, of course it does, and it's not just my time in the military, but it's a legacy of service that goes back to my father in World War II, my older brother in Vietnam, and the 22 years that I served, and I passed that torch on to my young nephew, who is the Captain Herman West III, serving in the United States Army right now. So it really does come from that commitment of our family to this country.
And I remember hearing you saying in your speech that you continue that oath, even though when you were in the military, you gave the oath, and you continue it to this day, right?
You absolutely do, and what I tell folks is there's no statute of limitations on it, and that's truly the measure of a person that's a servant of this country and not someone that's just going to Washington, D.C. to be served.
Right. And so if elected to Congress, what will be one of the first things you'll do if elected to Congress?
Well, I think the most important thing is our economy. I think it starts with reforming our tax code, our tax system. The progressive tax system lends itself to class warfare, and I think that we have to get away from that. I'm a proponent of a flat tax to be instituted and to lower the personal income tax rate and also the corporate business tax rate. I think that we need to eliminate the capital gains dividend and the death tax, which is due to come back. And I think a great way to stimulate our economy is to use a suspension of payroll taxes until we get the right economic indicators. But also, I will seek to get on the House Armed Services Committee because I think the rules of engagement have to be examined and analyzed. I think that it provides the initiative to the enemy and not to our soldiers. And speaking of which, I mean, we have soldiers that are sitting in Fort Leavenworth that I think have been unjustly imprisoned, namely First Lieutenant Michael Behena, and I think one of the key things I'm going to seek to do is get those guys out of Fort Leavenworth.
Do you think with the way this current administration is operating that they're treating our soldiers and even with the CIA, they're treating them almost as the enemy combatant and not the actual terrorists?
Well, you bring up a great point, Wayne, in that I think it was 2 weeks ago, the New York Times, 2 or 3 weeks ago, New York Times wrote a piece about how we have instituted a pledge policy whereby fathers or tribal leaders can come in with a pledge that an individual will no longer support the Taliban, and we're releasing them on that, I guess on that recognizance. And so when you have a system whereby we're releasing people who have attacked our soldiers, maybe even killed our soldiers in some instances, but yet we're imprisoning our own, or we're trying to court-martial these SEALs for, allegedly punching a guy, we're upside down in our country.
Do you think a lot of that is at this point, is it a reflection of the current administration? He seems to have an issue with, I would say, the military, police officers in general. Is that a reflection of him and this current administration?
I think that it is a reflection of the current administration, but I think that it is something that is a holdover from the previous administration. The rules of engagement were established initially under the Bush administration, but the Obama administration has taken it to an incredible degree and also continued the prosecution of our CIA agents and also our servicemen and women has just made a bad situation even worse. So I think that there are many things that this administration is doing that flies in the face of the military. Not going to Arlington National Cemetery on Memorial Day was one. There was nothing that was said, no message that was sent out from this administration on the 6th of June, which was the 66th anniversary of D-Day. And this past Monday was Flag Day, and also it was the 235th Army birthday. You heard nothing coming from this administration. And don't get me started about this Don't Ask, Don't Tell repeal. The service chiefs asked for that to allow them to conduct a review, but this administration, of course, the House of Representatives thought that special interest was more important than the interest of our men.
Is that something that frustrates you? Because as the president came in, he said that he would not be the one looking out for special interest groups, but it appears that he's gone in the exact opposite way, whether it be with the homosexual, the whole don't ask, don't tell, unions. Has he totally just broken the promises that he made to the American people?
Well, this president has proven that he is nothing more than a political hack and a liar. And I think that's even starting to frustrate the people on the left who are not getting what they wanted. So, when you elect a community organizer, you get a community organizer sitting in the White House, a person that is so far over their head, not able to make a decision. The only thing he looks at is bullying and establishing commissions and promoting a very liberal, progressive legislative agenda that is the antithesis of who we are in the United States of America.
With the whole thing, I spoke with Alario Pantano on that last night, and we both were talking.
Yeah, great young man.
Yeah, we were both talking about this trial in New York, and I asked him, and I asked you the same thing. Do you believe that this trial is more about putting the CIA and the former the Bush administration on trial than it is actually trying these terrorists?
Yes, you're absolutely right. And the most important thing that we got to understand, Wayne, is that the Geneva Convention is very specific about non-state, non-uniform belligerents being captured on the battlefield. They are not deserving of rights, and definitely not deserving of our constitutional rights and their quote-unquote day in court. And if we continue this practice of taking terrorists and bringing them to the United States and lawyering them up, we're just going to get more terrorists because they believe that we are displaying weakness and we're not serious about doing what is necessary to find them and destroy them, pursue them, and to win this fight against Islamic totalitarianism and terrorism.
Now, another question I would ask you is that we seem to be very passive with Iran and all the terrorist states, but yet we're being, I would say, tougher to Israel at this point. How do you explain that, and what would be your stand on how we protect Israel?
Well, by protecting Israel, they're our staunchest ally. They're our best ally in the Middle East. They're the sovereign state that we were the first to recognize in 1948. And for this president to sit there with Mahmoud Abbas and have photo ops, which he did not do with Prime Minister Netanyahu, for the United States for the first time to side with the United Nations in condemning Israel is something that is absolutely heinous. And for us to not understand that Hamas is a terrorist organization that has in its charter the destruction of the state of Israel, and to continue to placate and try to have appeasement policies with Iran is only going to lead to eventually the, going into the abyss of what could potentially be a great war in the Middle East. So I think that, once again, it comes back to not having a person that can stand upon conviction and commitment and can display strength. And so in the Middle East, he is totally disrespected and disregarded. And I think that today there's a poll that is coming out talking about how the Muslim world has no respect for this president after all of his apologizing tours that he did in Turkey and also in Cairo, Egypt.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people understand in their culture they don't respect passiveness. They respect.
They don't. Absolutely right. They respect strength and might, and we're not showing that. And there are some people in the world that you just got to put the hammer down on, and that is what the tribal Middle Eastern culture understands, and all this talk and compromise and negotiation gets you nowhere.
Yeah, their whole understanding is if you sit down and talk to them, that means they've already won. They don't.
They have already, absolutely. You're tracking 110%.
Thank you. Now, another issue that's obviously been on the horizon here is the illegal immigration issue. How do you feel about the law in Arizona, and what would you do to obviously improve the illegal immigration situation here in America?
Well, I'm thoroughly behind Governor Brewer and the state of Arizona 100%, and I came out and made that statement visibly, and I even spoke out against some members of the Republican Party who were siding against Governor Brewer. I thought that was not appropriate, and I thought it was very dangerous to the establishment of the rule of law, and that's who we are. Illegal immigration is illegal. That means the people are coming here breaking our laws, and if we do not enforce our laws, if we become a lawless society, then this great constitutional republic will be lost. And we have problems down here in Congressional District 22, which is what I'm running for, with the establishment of some sanctuary cities already. Jupiter is one. Lake Worth is becoming one. So I think that what Governor Brewer has done, many other states are going to start looking at, and I think that that's something also here in Florida we ought to be looking at, because it is about honoring our Constitution. Article 1, Section 8 addresses the repelling invasions. Article 4, Section 4. And yesterday we saw with their national parks that they are going to be closing down because of the threat of illegal immigration. And it's a sad day when our American citizens have to live under, a dark cloud and a threat from illegal immigrants, and our federal government is not doing anything about it. And I guess, according to Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, the federal government is even going to pursue suing sovereign states.
Right. That's what I did. I saw that yesterday too. Now, do you think we should make it a federal issue, or do you think we ought to let each state handle it the way they see fit?
Well, the bottom line is this: if the federal government does not uphold the mandates of the Constitution, which to establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, promote the general welfare of the citizens, and provide for the common defense, if they're not willing to do that, then the 10th Amendment is very clear. The states have the right to do it. So for the Obama administration to say that they're going to take legal action or sue the state of Arizona, they need to look at themselves in the mirror and understand that they have not done anything, and the states are operating within their rightful constitutional mandate to step up to the plate.
Do you just out of curiosity, do you think though that with that state bill that it does possibly lend itself to some people being harassed or being profiled at all?
No, it does not. And the bottom line is that, why shouldn't we have the opportunity for our law enforcement to ask that question?
Right.
That's what it's all about. Look, when I go to catch an airplane, I get absolutely sick and tired of having to take my shoes off and take the jacket off and dump my pockets. I can't carry a bottle of water with me. I have to have a measure, aftershave and all the, shaving creams and all of this. But, I'm not breaking any laws or anything of that nature. So I think that it gets to a point in the United States of America, it's not racial profiling. I'm sick of hearing that.
Right.
It's about trend analysis. And so we got a problem in this country, and if we keep trying to deny it, being the threat of illegal immigration, being the threat of radical Islamic terrorism, which is existing in our country, we're going to lose our nation.
Right. I mean, bottom line, they have to do it's police work, and that's what they have to do to make sure they're keeping their citizens safe.
Absolutely.
Now, with this oil spill in the Gulf, has that affected your district and your area yet? Has that been something that's creeping its ugly head up on the beaches near you?
Well, it hasn't come around the beaches. We're on the Atlantic coast side, the southeast Atlantic side. My district is a coastal district running from Fort Lauderdale up to Jupiter Inlet. It takes in Broward and Palm Beach counties. So it is a concern if that oil spill were to get to the Gulf Stream and whip around to the East Coast. It is a concern if there is some oil bubble beneath the surface that we're not seeing that could drip underwater. We need to be looking at that. But I think the biggest thing is this moratorium on drilling.
Right.
I believe that we have to evaluate and analyze and assess what happened on the Deepwater Horizon rig. We have to make sure that we institute the right emergency management and incident response procedures so that the fail-safe systems that obviously did not kick in on that platform. We got to do weekly, monthly drills and tests to make sure that that's not the case with our other platforms. But we can't put Americans out of work for 6 months, and we can't sit up here and say that we're just going to give up on developing our own oil resources. But we have to develop the full spectrum of our resources. So I see that as being the issue that we have going forward. Look, if we're not going to do it, that's not telling Russia and China that they're not going to do it.
Exactly.
So we're making ourselves more dependent on foreign energy resources. And we saw with the president's speech the other night, just the same as Rahm Emanuel says, never let a good crisis go to waste.
Exactly.
All this is an opportunity to push this cap and trade agenda, which will destroy our economy, which is what Spain has already shown with these green energy promotion, and once again make us more dependent upon foreign sources.
Yeah, I was actually listening to someone talk about this bill, and they were actually saying that it would go to the extent of if you were trying to sell your home, that the government might come in and actually do an inspection to make sure you have the right kind of energy efficient windows. I mean,
yes, you're absolutely right. What you have to currently, you would have to go to what is called the California Green Standard. So you would have to actually get a license for your home from the federal government. You would have to have someone to come in and inspect your home to make sure that it meets green energy efficiency standards before, like you said, before you can sell your home. So once again, we have a federal government that is going way outside the mandates of the Constitution. And this is nothing. This cap and trade is nothing more than behavior modification through taxation, which is just the same as the health care law, creating 111 new government agencies, 11 new taxes. This is nothing but a big grab for government.
Do you plan on trying to actually repeal that health care bill, or just maybe improve the bill once you're in Congress?
Well, I think the most important thing, first and foremost, the easiest thing to do is not appropriate to that bill, that legislation. So you just let it die on the vine, but then also start looking at how we can repeal it.
Right.
There may be one or two. I mean, protecting Americans with pre-existing conditions, that's a good thing. But most of that bill, most of that 2,000 some odd pages, is nothing more than a socialized medical system and the expansion of government. It does nothing to reduce the cost, and in the long term, it's going to kill our small businesses.
It can't be an actual reform bill without including tort reform. Would you agree?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the number one thing you have to look at is catastrophic litigation, which is driving up the cost. You talk to any doctor, and they'll tell you that. And so when you look at a state like Texas, which has tort reform there, you see doctors going there. You see medicine being practiced very well. You see the cost being lowered. When you look at a state like Florida, especially down here in South Florida, my district, where you have a large retirement community, doctors are coming here, and doctors are going under. They're being just swamped. So when you look at that aspect, when you look at we did nothing to breaking down the state-by-state restrictions on insurance agencies, when you look at the fact that illegal immigration affects our health care, we really did not do anything to solve this crisis.
Okay. Well, I think those are the things that people need to know. I think it's important, again, that people, the reason I've been having different people throughout the country come on the show and talk is because people need to understand that even though you're in Florida and someone, my listener, might be in California, you affect the laws. Once you're a congressperson, you affect the laws that affect the whole country. I think we learned that from the people up in Michigan when he finally passed that health care bill, that they see how important it is that we have to support the right candidates throughout the country.
Yeah, you got it absolutely right, because it's going to take 39 seats to be won in order to get the gavel out of Nancy Pelosi's hand. And every person that sits there in the House of Representatives, which is the most influential and important body of the legislative body, their vote makes a difference for all of Americans. I mean, I'll be a direct representative of the people of Congressional District 22, but I'll be a voice for all of America. And if people enjoy what you and I just talked about, if they go to www.gowest2010.com, they can learn more about our campaign.
Exactly. Well, I'll tell you what, thank you so much. It's truly been a pleasure having you on the show. I have one more question for you. I see you went to the University of Tennessee. How did you feel when Lane Kiffin left?
You know, good riddance. One of the things about SEC football is you really should not cross the Mississippi River or the Mason-Dixon line looking for a coach in the SEC. It's a tradition. It's a homegrown type of environment, and I'm glad that we've got Coach Dooley's son coming to be a part of our great program and tradition at the University of Tennessee.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Colonel Allen West. I really appreciate you coming on the show again. Like, you're a personal hero to me. I don't really get too many people that I can say that about, but I really appreciate you coming on the show. Can you give them the website address one more time so they can go on there and get more information and support you?
Absolutely, Wayne. It is www.gowest2010.com, and please sign up to get our email blast or any information, get on our mailing list, because we really love to get our message out. And we're closing in on 25,000 following us on Facebook.
Excellent, excellent. Well, good luck with the campaign. I can't wait to see you in November and take that gavel.
Absolutely. Thanks so much.
All right. God bless you, sir.
God be with you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That was my interview with Lieutenant Colonel Allen West. It was truly a pleasure doing that interview. Next week, I'll have on the show, next Tuesday, I have Bill Randall, who's going to be he's coming on the show for the second time. He's running for Congress in the 13th District in North Carolina. He was the surprise Republican nominee after getting a lot of Tea Party support, the I Caucus support. I'm hoping to do a show soon more on the I Caucus and what their intents were, and get some more knowledge about that. I've had people in different states who, quite frankly, I've heard some different things all the way around, so I'm hoping very soon to do a show on I Caucus, because I think that's something that we need to pay more attention to, which is the independent vetting of these candidates, as opposed to either be Democrats or Republicans. Listen to it from an independent standpoint. I think a lot of times their questioning might be more stringent than if it were for one or the other, obviously. So I'm looking forward to that. So I'm going to be getting off the air soon. Again, I want to invite anyone that's in the Ohio area to come down to see me in Hannahburton, Ohio on July 3rd at 11 a.m. I'll be speaking at a tea party that afternoon. I look forward to that. I I want to say thanks again to Dave Johnson for inviting me out to speak at this Tea Party, and I'm really looking forward to bringing the message of freedom, independence, and obviously some prosperity to our country. New direction, and I can't wait to get down there. So I'll be heading down there for that Tea Party this weekend. And next week again, like I said, we'll have Bill Randall on the show. Looking forward to line up some. I got some other surprise guests that I can't let out yet because I don't have everything down. So I'm gonna just keep to what I got going on out here. Definitely for next week, Bill Randall will be on. Monday, I don't think I'm doing a Fix Michigan Monday. That'll be the holiday. So, with the following week, I'll have Senator John Papa George on our Fix Michigan Monday. So I'm going to continue to keep bringing in some great guests. Go to the website, conservativeiscool.com, for your updates on blogs and on polling. And like I said, again, I appreciate everyone that listens in on the show. If you have anything you want to comment on, 347-996-3175 is the call-in number. I appreciate everyone that follows and supports the show. Hopefully we'll have Rick Barber come back on soon, come on the show. We'll get it rescheduled and have it obviously re-air that interview. So thanks for everyone that's listening in. I'm going to be leaving the show now tonight. I want to say God bless you. Good night. Talk to you later.